I was born in a scrub in the mama by the banks of the river Barcoo. Got a ticket to nowhere written on my face.
I think it's something that, you know, First Nations people really loved and really took on board, the whole country music thing, and it's something that has enabled them to pass down stories and tell stories and knowledge through song, as they have done forever, but in a more of a contemporary way. And it's something, you know, it's pretty hard to find a black fella that doesn't love country music.
But we're still going to tell our stories. But it was through country music that started us. I mean, I could have been singing about trains coming down the mountains, or but yeah, now I just do my stuff now.
So even like being involved in the show and reading the books back in the day, learning about Uncle Roger, you know, and learning his story, and you're realising that he's singing songs from the north as well, and there's all this song sharing going on between a lot of like mob down here in New South Wales and in Queensland.
Country music had, like I said, stories about living out in the bush, the dogs, the horses, the cattle, the campfires, you know, and crossing raging rivers. So the Indigenous people, I mean, we associated with that, like a lot of non-Indigenous people too. So country music, that's where it came from.
It's a deep history, and Aboriginal people connected with country music for lots of very good reasons that I haven't got the time or space to go into here now. That's how deep it all is. On one thing, they pick up a guitar. You can walk around with a guitar. You can't walk around with a piano, not that there was one in the desert anyway. But initially when I started out with Berry Country, a lot of white fellas were really like, what are Aboriginal people doing with sort of country music? It's, you know, isn't that... But no, you know, it's a storytelling medium, and it's got all these real good reasons. And the final thing that really, you know, what makes sense to me is it makes sense that black fellas might steal something back from the white fellas.
When the howling wind does wail on the Namoy late at night.
Well, basically, I can play in standard tuning a bit, but when I discovered open tunings, like open D is D-A-D, F sharp A-D, that is just the songwriter's golden goose or whatever.
Look, if someone wants you to sit around a campfire and sing a song, do it. I did that. I only had 4 strings on my 6-string guitar, but I'd clunk away. Oh God, I wouldn't like to go back and listen to me now with that little guitar. It was out of tune, and a string would break, so you'd join another string to it, tighten it up, and do-do-do-do-do-do.
Still the oral traditions from hundreds of thousands of years. Still, that's the way we might have these TVs and little floody movie screens and all that sort of stuff, but we still communicate best face to face. I grew up on Merle Haggard, Charlie Pride, Tom T. Hall, Johnny Cash, because I couldn't sing as deep as Johnny Cash, but I loved the way they sang. And
I think one of the things that made that gave life a little bit of joy for Aboriginal people was music. I actually honestly do. You know, I even have a theory that at some point when Berry Country in some ways was sort of, you know, it was really banging on the brick wall for a while, you know, and I don't want to get really conspiratorial about it, but to say nobody wants to hear the story of black fellas kicking a goal, you know, and there they were, and this music gives joy. What is at the basis of all 20th century popular music is gospel music. Aboriginal people on missions went to churches and they learnt those same songs that Wilson Pickett and Aretha Franklin all grew up singing, right? And those are the same roots of country music. That's why the line to country music is not so hard to understand either.
when you'd see Harry and Wilga Williams singing years and years ago, I saw them singing in Tamworth, I saw them singing in Melbourne, back when I was about 25, 26, and it never leaves you, you don't forget it. And you see Jimmy Little, hear Jimmy Little singing and all.
Dougie Young, Uncle Eric Craigie, Eric Williams, Bobby McLeod did it through music. And to me, music is the best form communication and understanding. You know, they wouldn't play it because they thought it was controversial. But it was my story, it's through country music. That's how we did it. And that's all we knew. So, until we come to the point where we knew where we were going to go and what we were talking about, I said, yeah, well, let's talk about this. If it's going to affect people, let's hope it'll affect them in a good way. It'll open their eyes and straighten them out a little bit if they, you know, get too radical or too controversial or too political. I mean, politics, we're born political as Aboriginal people, you know.